In this video series, I'll be making some barn door hardware. So this is a multi-part video. First we'll start out, we'll make these wheels. In this great adventure of making barn door hardware, I have decided that step number one is to make the wheels. So here we have one of the wheels. And it's got a 1/4 inch axle that I have axle hole right now. I have countersunk that a little bit because I'll be welding the axle into place. The inside diameter is 2 inches, the outsides are 2 1/4. And I'll show you how I did this. I've got this all set up here for the middle piece. As you can see, I've already cut one out of this. This is where the other one came from. It's a piece of 5/16 inch flat stock. I've got my drill press set to 250 RPMs, which is as slow as it goes. Now I'm just going to bring that down. Put a little bit of oil on it here. Get there we go, get it primed. There we go. You keep these hole saws oiled up and don't get in any big hurry. They'll do this. Just a whole bunch of that. I'll bring you back in a little bit. Well, right up to the point where I was just about through, this hole saw here started getting dull. I imagine that 2 of those is the limit. Doing more than one is probably pretty good for that. It's a pretty cheap hole saw. Now, I was wrong a while ago. That's not a 2 inch, it's a 2 1/8 inch. But it's probably a 2 1/8 inch on the outside and not the inside. So the inside is what matters in this case, not the outside. So I swapped that out with another hole saw I had. Let's see if I can get through this. It's almost through. We're through. And there we go. Now, I think, I'm not sure, I'm doing all this by guess, but instead of going halfway through one way and halfway through the other, I think it was best to go all the way. It leaves a slight ridge around this outside, around the bottom here, but little snutch with the grinder, and that smooths that right off. So now we'll make the other 2. And I think that old hole saw is about done too. I would imagine these still work on wood just fine, but like I said, it's a cheap hole saw. Not a good one. This one here is a little bit better of a brand. This one I'll be cutting the outside holes with. And if I get any more for making these things, I'll get some better hole saws, that's for sure. But it's pretty hard to beat the quality of that circle any other way. I don't. If you had a real good circle cutting jig on the plasma cutter, you could do it, or especially if you had a CNC, you could do it. But I don't have either one of those. So let's put this other hole saw on. Get out some 1/4 inch stock. I don't know if the piece I was using is big enough to make 2 or not. This is the piece I was using, and it's a scrap left off of a top box rack for what was a KLR but is now a BMW. I'll let y'all guess where that came from. So let's get some of this stuff out of the way. Workboard here a little bit. I think that will make 2 of them easy enough. So, this one tends to make a little bit more racket. Well, getting close to having the second one done here. Here's the first one sitting here. And there it is. Just like that. 2 of those. Now I'll clean those up a little bit with my flat disc on a grinder, and then I need to drill 4 holes around here to plug weld them to that other one. So I'll bring you back in a little bit. By no means do these holes have to be exact, but I'm getting them close to being halfway symmetrical, I guess you'd say. Etch a little cross on there at about a 90-degree angle. Take my dividers and get about halfway between the center hole and the outside and make a little scratch. I know you won't be able to see this on the camera because I can just barely see it myself, but it's there. Now we'll take a center punch, which I happen to have right here. If I can get to the place where I can see that scratch on there. So we'll take that over to the drill press now and drill 4 holes in that. I'm starting out with about a 3/16 inch bit here to begin with, just to get my hole started. That's one. I've slowly worked my way up here to about a 7/16 inch, I believe it is. And there we go. 4 holes that are plenty big enough to plug weld onto the side of that centerpiece. So I'll take them over to the flat disc and clean them up a little bit, and then we'll get to welding. Now I need to douse that down, or both of those, all 3 pieces actually, with a little acetone, clean off all the oil that I can, and then we'll get to welding. Turn my gas on, because I've got some pretty heavy stuff here. I want to get as much penetration I have, so I got my welder cranked all the way up. Well, it's all tacked in there pretty good, so let's weld it up shut now. Let's rotate that around so I can get into the other side of the hole real good. All that's left to do is to grind those welds down smooth. I built them up there a little bit. When I got this one done, I had some little spots I needed to touch up. I didn't want to have to do that in there, so I got some pretty good welds gobbed up on there. So grind down smooth and it'll look like this one, and then I'll have two of those and that's all I need. Weld a axle, 1/4 inch piece of rod into the center. I got some garage door spring here that would work just fantastic for that. And then we can get to making the rest of it.